Million Dollar Quartet finally in town. How's that for a marquee? Elvis Presley, Jerry Lee Lewis, Carl Perkins, and Johnny Cash. It is a musical inspired by the famed recording session that brought together those four rock and roll icons. As I just said, if you missed it, Elvis, Johnny, Jerry Lee, Carl Perkins, for the first and only time.
That's right. This thrilling musical brings you inside the recording studio with four major talents who came together as a red-hot rock and roll band for one unforgettable night. Joining us now are two men who play these big roles: Scott Moreau, who plays Johnny Cash, along with Brian Langlitz, who plays Sam Phillips. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning. Thanks for having us.
All right, so tell us a little bit more about this show. I mean, a big night in music history. How do you build a show on that? What happens in this piece?
There's a lot of story to tell for sure, even though it was just one night.
Yeah.
December 4th, 1956, like you said, these four guys come together and they play some music together, first and only time. So as far as the show goes, we just try to recreate it. You know, we just try to recreate that evening, playing some of those tunes that were recorded that night and some others, and try to recreate some of that dialogue and those scenes, and tell some of that story and some of that history of what happened between those guys on that night.
So cool. So tell us about each of your characters.
Sure. You want to take that?
Well, I played Johnny Cash. At the time in 1956, he's 24 years old. He's the oldest of the four guys. None of them are really household names at the time. I mean, he's riding the wave of Walk the Line being a pretty big hit at the time, and has also recorded Folsom Prison Blues, but again is not the household name that he became, wasn't the Man in Black at the time. But yeah, he's just kind of really just starting out in the music business, has only been at Sun Records for about a year, and just kind of finding his way in the business.
Yeah, and Sam's got, his four, it's like his sons, right? They come back, it's his four golden boys. Even though Jerry Lee Lewis on that night was relatively unknown. He was hired as a session piano player that evening.
No kidding.
Wow. Yeah, he was writing tunes and beginning to record with Sun. But from an actor's perspective, Sam's up there the whole time. He doesn't leave the stage. He narrates the evening. So all the other actors play their own instruments. There is no separate band. So so Scott's playing his own guitar, and our Elvis is playing his own guitar. Jerry Lee on the piano. But I obviously don't have to play anything because Sam didn't. But I do have to tell the whole story. So, yeah,
you play the puppet master.
A little bit of puppet master going on.
All right, so Scott, let's talk a little bit about this. This has got to be a tough situation. I mean, for stepping into a role as iconic, a man like Johnny Cash, obviously also a voice, incredibly iconic. How do you, as an actor, do you bring yourself into it, but also still pay homage to the artist that you're presenting?
That is a very good question. Well, for me personally, I mean, we talk a lot about it. It's never about an impersonation.
Right.
It's never, there's nothing that's a caricature or kind of cartoonish about what we do. At the same time, I really just try to be as close to Cash as I possibly can. I don't try to put my stamp on the show or bring Scott to the show, really. Everything I do up there is based in, reading, listening to his recordings, watching concert videos, all of that stuff. So, yeah, I try not to bring me up there. I try to
really
leave me there and go out and be as much Cash as
Did you have
possible.
a background with Johnny Cash growing up? I mean, was this a role that you said, man, they should make a musical and I should play Johnny Cash? Or did you just happen into it?
Ding, ding, ding.
Well, no, I mean, I got into Cash about maybe 15 years ago.
Okay.
My parents are of this era, so I grew up with this music, so that's not too far of a stretch. But really, when the show was on Broadway, that's when I kind of went, how can I do two things I love? Be in musicals and play Johnny Cash. That's the show I want.
There you go.
So I went out for it.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, when, where, how can we
Sure.
get
So
tickets?
we opened last night at Popejoy Hall. We've got a show tonight, Friday night. We have 2 on Saturday and 2 on Sunday. So you got 5 more chances to come. You can get tickets at unmtickets.com.
Yeah, and I highly recommend, guys, if you are part of the Popejoy Presents, you see a lot of shows, this one's going to be quite a departure, and I think a very wonderful departure.
Yeah.
So get out, see Million Dollar Quartet this week. And guys, thanks for coming in.
Thanks.